There's some hidden emotional costs of divorce that not a lot of people talk about. I think one of them is the guilt and shame that you might feel about getting the divorce. I think a lot of women are raised to have this expectation that you find your Prince Charming and you end up in this fairy tale romance. And then when the reality hits that life is not like a Disney princess fairy tale, you start to blame yourself. Maybe it's something that you did and you start to feel shame, or you try to take on this perfectionist role, right? And you've disappointed yourself, you've disappointed your family, you've disappointed your kids, right? How do you tell these other people that you failed? And so one of the things I want women to know is it is not a failure. Sometimes asking for a divorce is one of the bravest, most courageous things that you can do. Not just for yourself, but you can do it for your children and your spouse, right? All of you are trapped in this toxic relationship, feeding off of each other, and this is not a life that any of you deserves to live. So asking for this divorce, finding a way out, can be a really difficult and painful process, but also it can be one of the best things that you ever do for yourself, for your children, and for your ex. So the feedback I get from a lot of my clients post-divorce is that daily life is easier. It's so much easier after divorce. I mean, they no longer have this, what feels like a dead weight around their necks that they're having to drag around everywhere, right? They find the irony is that a lot of them were afraid of the financial consequences of divorce, when in reality, a lot of them are no longer having to deal with, someone who has an addiction problem to gambling or alcoholism or whatever, draining the family estate, with lawyers' fees or whatever it is, and creating debt, right? Now, these women are off and they're like, look at this. I have a clean slate. I'm rebuilding. I have a savings account now. They find that the chores around the house are easier because they don't have to clean as much. They are finding that life with the kids are happier because mommy and daddy aren't fighting as much. And so they actually are finding that life after divorce is really great. And so day to day, it's a long-term game. Life during the divorce may not be so great, but life after divorce can actually be a pretty good thing. The long-term financial impacts after divorce can vary depending on the client, depending on the person, and how your situation is. Some women find that they're actually more successful. They can now take promotions that they weren't able to take before. Some can rebuild their savings accounts. They invest better. They make better financial decisions. And others struggle financially. And it is a problem in our society that women are not as supported as they should be. And so they may find it difficult to get back into the workforce. They may find it difficult to deal with paying off debt and taking that financial hit from the divorce. And so I think one of the best ways that you can deal with that is by planning and preparing ahead of time before you get divorced, and kind of figuring out what that game plan is going to be so that you can mitigate whatever might come after the divorce. I like talking to our clients after the divorce, just checking in on them to see kind of how things are going. And I'll often ask them, in hindsight, would you have done things differently? And a response that I often hear is, yes, there's one thing I would have done differently, is making sure to ask for what I want. And so I think as women, we're often brought up to prioritize other people's needs and wants ahead of our own. And so it becomes difficult during the divorce process when you have to become your own advocate to actually ask for what you want. And what makes it even more difficult is, like, what do I want, right? And it can be really confusing because if you especially have children, right, you are still prioritizing their needs in the divorce. And so, some of the things that you may really want, you're still putting to the side. So I would encourage you to find an attorney, talk to the attorney about what it is you really want, and brainstorm with them about, here's what my kids need, but here's also what I need. And that way you guys can build a game plan to get you through this whole divorce process. If you want to learn more about the things that no one else tells you about divorce, talk to us. You can reach us and find us online, Alexandra Geczi Family Law, at www.familylawdfw.com.